Hi, everybody, and welcome to Boating Roundtable. You know, batteries are a big topic for boaters. Boaters always want to know more about their batteries, what kind of batteries should they get, how to take care of the batteries. And today we've brought an expert on board to teach us some of those things. Joining us today from Reading, Pennsylvania is Alan Kohler, who is marketing manager of ODYSSEY Batteries. Alan, welcome to Boating Roundtable.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell me, ODYSSEY just recently made a big purchase, did they not? Let's tell the audience a little bit about that.
So I guess to talk about that, maybe we start off by talking about the history of ODYSSEY in general, and then lead into that. But
okay,
so basically, ODYSSEY started in 1996. So we're coming up this year on our 25th anniversary. Going to do a big hullabaloo on that. And really, I mean, we started out our roots with building specialty type batteries. Really started in the marine industry. We had a lot. Most of our customers back in those days were marine customers, and the other thing that we did a lot on was like car audio. So the systems that had the big backup power with big batteries in. So those were our two main focuses. And over the years, you know, we got into different types of batteries. You got into like power sports batteries, so even personal watercraft batteries, motorcycles, ATVs. And now, right now, we're kind of really focusing a lot on like your general automotive size batteries. And one of our biggest parts of our business is over the road trucks. So
really?
Big Group 31 size batteries. Some of those trucks will take 8 batteries.
Wow.
So obviously, when you're selling 8 at a time for one vehicle, that's big business, right?
Yeah.
So obviously every company has competitors, and North Star was one of our competitors. And a little bit of backstory on North Star in general was some of the people from ODYSSEY formed North Star many years ago. So the product was very, very similar. I mean, strikingly similar. So when the
funny how that works.
when the opportunity came up for us to purchase them, we're like, this is great. You know, we got twice the manufacturing facilities, we got twice the customers. You know, so big business. You know, and kind of helps us play against some of our other competitors. So yeah, just last year we bought North Star Battery. They had always been kind of heavy in most of the same categories as we were, maybe more heavily in marine than we were coming up most recently, and then also again in the trucking. But we're currently in the process of integrating that product line into ours. We're probably going to maintain the North Star Battery brand name for a while, but it may eventually go away once everybody gets, acclimated to, hey, it's the same company.
Gotcha. That's great. So tell me, one of the biggest questions we get at Boating Magazine is, how do I choose about what size battery do I choose for my boat? And of course, we know there's starting batteries and deep cycle batteries. Can you give some general guidelines for a boater? How does he or she know that they're selecting the right size? I guess meaning capacity battery.
Well, yeah, and the marine industry, in my mind, is fairly easy when it comes to that, because there really aren't that many group sizes that manufacturers use. Typically, the most popular ones would probably be it's a 34, 24, 27 size battery. They're all kind of the same footprint. And then the bigger one, which is the Group 31. Everybody makes them. Everybody makes them to the same size specification. The only differences would be, you can get, using Group 31 as an example, you can get a Group 31 with 500 cold cranking amps, and you get one with 1,000 cold cranking amps. So it's like, what do you want to, the levels of how good the battery is, what do you want to pay for? Do you want to get the cheapest one you can find, or do you want to get the best one that's made it out there? So typically, like I said, you would start with, okay, my boat came with a Group 31, or my boat came with Group 34. Now I go looking for, what's available in that size. And that's more so for, your smaller boats. When you get into big yachts and things like that, obviously they have big battery banks and everything. And we have some larger batteries for those. I don't know if any of these group sizes will ring a bell, but like 4Ds and 8Ds. So they're
absolutely. No, absolutely. We plenty of our audience own boats in the 35 to 45 foot range. So yeah, those would be common on board those vessels.
We make those both ODYSSEY and North Star brand at the moment. There's another one that gets used in marine a lot. We call it the PC 1800. It's kind of a real tall, skinny battery. It actually came from like the telecom industry, where they would put batteries in racks and stuff like that, and that kind of morphed into the marine industry over the years too. So we make a multitude of those as well.
Here's another question we get a lot: automobile versus marine batteries. You always, marine equipment always gets a bad rap, or with some people in some circles. And is there a difference between a car battery and a boat battery?
Fundamentally, no. But you have to really go back and think about what kind of technology specifically that you're talking about using in your boat. So historically, I would say a boat battery to me was a deep cycle. So back in the day, deep cycles were almost all gel batteries. So it's a term that not a lot of people talk about these days, but truly what that was a standard flooded type battery. And instead of adding liquid electrolyte, liquid acid, you know what I mean? They would actually, it was like a silica gel based electrolyte. So it was thick, right? And that, what that does for you when a battery discharges, it turns to water if it's normal electrolyte. And with a gel battery, it doesn't do that. So it helps in the deep cycle ability. So most of the batteries, like I said, you see back then were gel batteries. Today, we look at a lot of AGM batteries, and not all AGM batteries are deep cycle batteries. So that's an interesting part too. And we'll probably get into talking about that a little later when we talk about construction. But ODYSSEY happens to be both. So they are dual purpose. They are starting and deep cycle. So makes it easier when you're picking a battery. In that case, is do I need it for my starter? Do I need it for my trolling motor? Is it backup power? Doesn't matter. So we just say pick your size. It's going to do everything. And one of our terms that we use is 400 cycles to 80% depth of discharge is what an ODYSSEY can handle as far as deep cycle capability. And that's, if you compare it to other batteries, that's an impressive number. So what that tells me is, you could beat the heck out of somebody else's battery and it might only last you a year or two. Ours will just go on and on. So that's one of the things we tout with our battery is how long lasting it is, and that's part of it.
You just brought up a point that I want to kind of bring up, and maybe you can illuminate. And this is, I'm going off the script, but you talked about discharge to 80%. Now, when I'm picking a battery, right, I'm going to look at my engine owner's manual. It's going to tell me how many cranking amps I need, and that's going to let me look at your battery and select the starting aspect of it. It's really simple as that, right? Look at my engine requirements, starting capacity. That's what I need. Maybe a little, and get a little more for insurance. Selecting my deep cycle aspect is I have to figure out my average amp use. Correct? I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong. My average amp use on a daily basis. But now what you just said, down to 80% discharge. So I really shouldn't base it on the full, like if it's a 100 amp battery, I should only count on 80%, 80 of those amps. Is that correct when I'm looking at a battery to shop?
Yeah, I mean, they do that just because you don't want to be draining it down to zero every time. But 80% is, a good majority of that. Yeah, because I don't know what boat manufacturers really look at when they do that. I highly doubt that they get into that level of detail as far as exactly how many amps and exactly, how much discharge you're going to be taking out of that. Probably because it varies so much. But one of the things that all battery manufacturers rate batteries at is called reserve capacity.
Okay.
So there's a good benchmark. Again, we talk about CCAs, that's obviously a benchmark of, and I can compare mine versus somebody else's. Reserve capacity is the same way, but it's more for that aspect of, like it says, reserve power. So everybody rates it to the same rating. And if I say my battery is going to last, 120 minutes for that given test rating, I can look at somebody else's the same group size, and theirs is only going to last 100 minutes. So that I can say this one's got more power. So yeah, I would imagine that some manufacturers will have a guideline for that, like you must have at least an X amount of minute rated reserve capacity battery. So, like I said, everybody publishes that data on their batteries. So that's another good way to pick a battery using a different rating, if you will.
Thank you. So now another thing that's really questioned, and it's less so, but it still comes in all the time, boat shows and email and so forth. Should I buy an AGM battery? should I buy a flooded electrolyte battery? Can you comment on, and does Odyssey offer both types?
Well, truthfully, no. Odyssey only does AGM. As a matter of fact, Odyssey does high performance AGMs.
Okay.
But if you talk about, battery technology, we kind of got into that a little bit. Obviously flooded batteries have been around forever, gel batteries in there for a while. And then AGMs are kind of new technology. I mean, they've really been around for a while, but not a lot of people have used them. And probably more so because people don't realize which ones are AGM and which ones aren't, and why that is a good thing. An AGM battery will stand up, will last longer than a flooded battery in all cases. I mean, like if it's your car, like I've worked in the motorcycle industry for a lot of years, same deal. Flooded batteries, you're always maintaining them. It's like if you remember the days of having to put acid in batteries or
Sure.
distilled water in batteries, because they're always drying out. They're open to the air. I mean, that's what flooded means. It's doused with acid inside, and then it's open to the air, so it evaporates, and you got to replenish that water. AGM doesn't do that. AGM keeps all the fluid inside of the battery, and it recombines, and it stays fully absorbed with acid. It's basically its entire life, unless you overcharge or do something strange to it. But that's the benefit of an AGM, is just the robust ability for it to do its job.
And then you mentioned high performance AGM earlier. Is there a difference between a high performance AGM and a standard AGM, or whatever the term might be?
Sure. I mean, regular AGM batteries is what it says. It's absorbed glass mat. So your acid is absorbed in the separators between the plates. And then over and above that, the battery is valve regulated, so it has an internal pressure. And if you overcharge something like that, it can burp off pressure if it needs to. But again, it stays closed, if you will. And so what we did to kind of up that ante a little bit is, when I call a high performance battery, is ours are what we consider thin plate pure lead. So two things going on there. Thin plate means we make the plates as thin as we can, and then we can get more plates in the cells. And the more plates, the more surface area you have, the more cranking power, the more reserve power you have. So the high performance aspect is, like anything else that's high performance, is how much power can I put in the same space as somebody else makes a cheap version, right? So we put as much material in as we can to make that a high performance battery as far as its power capabilities. The other thing I mentioned there was pure lead. Not everybody does this. It's more expensive to manufacture. So batteries that are made from recycled lead have dissimilar metals that are always reacting with each other. And basically what happens is they discharge on their own every day. Again, the natural aspect of dissimilar metals reacting with each other. With the pure lead that Odyssey uses, you really don't have that. I mean, that's the benefits of pure lead are slow to almost no discharge, fast recharge capability, and corrosion that you would see. So a lot of times you see a battery has green furry corrosion. Again, that comes from those dissimilar metals and alloys reacting in that battery and causing corrosion. With pure lead, you don't have that corrosion. There's nothing to react to it, basically. So again, a pure lead battery will stand longer without discharging just on its own because of the way it's made. One of the things we tell people in all types of vehicles that maybe don't use a lot is just unhook the battery cable and let the battery sit. That's one of the, we'll probably talk about maintenance here in a little bit, but that's one thing related to discharge that you can be aware of. That
the ground cable or the positive cable or the ground cable?
I would unhook them both. I mean, it's just as easy. So yeah.
So talk about maintenance. You made the entree. That was going to be the next question. Okay. Talk about the charging. AGM and does it require special charging, special alternator, or not? And then go into any maintenance needs that we, because we do need to take care of these batteries. A lot of our audience is used to, as you said, pulling the caps and adding acid, using a hydrometer to look at watch the little balls float, and so forth. Yeah. And those days are gone, huh?
Well, yeah, it's funny because, back in the day, I think it was AC Delco brought out what they considered the maintenance-free battery. but it was still a flooded battery. They just kind of like capped it flush and didn't really let you look inside the battery. But in reality, it's losing fluid over the years. And if you really, really wanted to, you probably could pry those caps off, fill it with acid, and get a couple more years out of it. They just don't want you to do that. They don't want to sell you batteries, right? So that aspect of maintenance is gone. And with an AGM battery, you don't have that at all because, like I mentioned before, it's sealed. There's no way to refill it. Plus, it doesn't leave if you don't have to refill it. And as far as charging goes, and these kind of things, again, years ago, people didn't have to realize it. Everything was flooded battery. They all had the same voltages. We were all good. So when you introduce AGM into the mix, you have to take into special considerations into how am I charging that and am I charging it correctly? Some manufacturers of chargers will say, kind of like one size fits all. We'll set it at this and it'll be good and everything. But if you talk to AGM battery manufacturers, they'll tell you that's not true. We recommend to everybody that comes to us and asks us, what type of charger should I use? We say, hey, use a charger that has an AGM setting. Makes sense, right? So the difference is it has a slightly higher peak charge voltage. So to talk numbers, a regular flooded battery will probably, in a charger, will probably run about 14.4 volts peak charging voltage.
Right.
For an AGM, including high performance AGMs, we want you to use 14.7 peak volts on the AGM. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but over time, it really does make the difference between a battery that's 100% charged and maybe only 90% charged. And that affects your life over the years. That affects your life. So as long as you're charging that the way you should be charging that, it really will extend the life of your battery. So charger manufacturers, a lot of good marine charger battery charger manufacturers out there. And if you look at what they offer, most of them will have an AGM setting. So if you got an AGM battery, put it on AGM setting, good to go. You mentioned alternators. Same thing happens with cars, and we get questions all the time. Hey, well, this is a different battery, right? So am I okay with charging it with what I have? And the answer is yes. I mean, I just said a minute ago that we really tell people specifics on chargers, but alternators aren't always charging at the same rate anyway. So we just say you got to be in a certain range. And for ODYSSEY, I believe it's printed right on the top of the battery, it says anywhere from 14.2 to 14.7 is the range. And you could have older vehicles, older boats that maybe the alternators aren't even putting out 14.2, and that's kind of a problem even if you have a flooded battery. You're always struggling to kind of keep that battery charged. So what we tell people there is, hey, especially if you're using the battery hard and it's maybe not getting charged up as much as it should. That's why people have chargers in their garages. You bring your boat home, you're not going to be using the boat for a couple weeks or more. Put the battery on a charger and make sure it gets up to 100%. That way, next time you take it out, it's fully charged, ready to go, rather than guessing that, did I get it charged up enough in the short time I used it, maybe. So
that's also a good tip about checking your alternator's output, though, because bigger boats aren't going to come home. And just in general, it would be a good thing maybe every 3 or 5 years to have a marine electrician or yourself check your alternator output. And if you're not meeting them about 14.5, then maybe, it needs to be serviced or replaced.
Yeah. And that's why most of your marine chargers are onboard chargers too. So if you have shore power, even if you're at a marina, you can plug that in if you have to. So, and then other aspects of maintenance. Again, we talked about not needing to fill batteries with fluid anymore. But just in general, making sure it's clean, making sure the terminals are tight. If there is any kind of corrosion or anything, clean that up. So it's just a matter of making sure everything is clean. No other word for it. It's really the only other maintenance is clean and charged. Simple.
Here's a question that I have, and we have this heated discussion with boating friends and our fellow staff. Should you grease your terminals? Does the whole grease the terminal or leave the terminal dry? What does ODYSSEY recommend? What do you, in your years of experience, recommend for a boater?
Well, if I'm talking Odyssey, I would say don't use anything, because
Okay.
we talked about how it's not going to corrode. Um, but in general, for batteries, I've seen different things over the years, and the worst thing you can do is grease it before you put the cables on, because now you're blocking that. I mean, even with dielectric grease, I mean, I they say that's okay, but I would rather see you have a nice clean connection. And then sometimes I've seen it's like a red spray or something like that. You spray the
Yes.
outside of it. So you're
Yes.
protecting the outside from especially in salt water, whatever else. We say you don't get corrosion, but you still get uh,
A
not
crust.
rusting. Yeah,
D-
yeah, yeah.
Whatever that
Dirt.
is.
Right, right. So you're
Mung.
protecting it,
Mung.
and yeah. So you're protecting it just from the elements. So.
Right. So let's review Odyssey. So thin, uh, pure lead, thin plate. Is that, did I get it right? I got it backwards. Thin plate,
Thin
pure
plate pure
lead.
lead. It's
You
we
do
call
it.
we call it TPPL, thin
Okay.
plate pure lead. So it's not something that's unique to us. There's other companies that do that same basic aspect. I mean, it's a simple concept. Make your batteries your plates as thin as you can, and if you can use pure lead, great. I mean, there's other competitors that we have that do use either pure or highly refined recycled
Mhm.
lead. You can get lead refined to the point where you get, again, 99.9% of the impurities out. So they don't really even consider it standard recycled lead at that point. So some manufacturers do that. But again, yeah, the construction of the batteries, and we talked about thin plate pure lead, but like our extreme series as an example, we make two basic levels of batteries. They're all high performance AGMs, but we still make two different levels. One's called a performance series, and one's called extreme series. The difference between the two, the performance series is kind of like, I'll call it your entry level, right? The lower cost one, it's made out of standard polypropylene plastic, which is what most batteries are made out of.
Okay.
And the way we connect every battery has 6 cells, right? So you're going to have to connect one to the next. And when you connect the cells together, the 6 cells together, most manufacturers will go what they call through the wall weld. So you connect 2 points through a plastic wall by a hole in the wall and a weld through it. So that's your typical way to construct even flooded batteries over the years. Problem with that is you need space to do all that. So typically you'll lower the height of the plates, and you won't get as much power out of that particular square inches that you could if you weren't doing it that way. So having said that, that's what we do with our extreme series. We make the plates higher, and then we connect those cells over the top of the wall. So there's like a little pocket in the top of the battery that will make room for that connector going over the top of the cell. And again, so we can get, we said thin plates, but now taller plates too. So we're packing that thing with as much lead as you can put in there. So when people compare our batteries, they say, "Oh my God, yours is really heavy." I'm like, "Yes, it is," and there's a reason for that. It's because we want it to be. The more lead, the more weight, the more power you have. So we do that on purpose. And the other thing that we do, talked about, polypropylene plastic material on batteries. We use it's like a polycarbonate blend on the extremes, so it's a much more robust material.
Mhm.
It's a heavier plastic. It's more resilient. It has a higher temperature rating, higher and lower temperature rating. So it's just one of those, again, aspects of, if you're building the Cadillac, you put the extra features into that one, and now that one's going to cost a little bit more money. But again, we said in the beginning, when you're picking a battery, what do you need? Do I need the best of the best? Or in this case, I'm telling you that we make one that's still the same technology. It just doesn't have all the bells and whistles. So sometimes we'll get guys say, "Oh, well, hey, I can save $50 on a battery, and you're telling me it's the same basic construction. Sure, I'll go for that." So we like to give people options. I mean, there's so many options out there. My example always is, if you walk into an auto parts store to buy a battery for your car, and you ask the counter guy, I need this specific size for my car. What do you have? They'll have 5 different options,
Yes.
and it starts from the lowest value, the cheapest one, the lowest capacity one, and then you step up from there. Good, better, best scenario. We consider ourselves the top level, of course, being a high performance AGM, but oftentimes people will just buy the cheapest one you can buy because they don't need anything better. Maybe they're going to sell the vehicle. They just want something in there that's going to start for a time period. They don't care if it lasts for only a year. But our customers typically are those guys that realize hey, there's a reason why things cost more money and why things last longer. It's how they're made. And incidentally, I told you early on that we started in 1996. Probably one of the things I didn't mention was we've always been made in the USA. North Stars made in the USA. Specifically, both of them are made in Missouri, and no plans to change that. We're not moving anything offshore. That's one of the aspects of building a good product these days is where do you get your materials? Where do you build it? So we take pride in saying that our product is made in the USA, and we use the best quality materials we can, and that's why Odyssey stands out in the crowd and really is the best product you can buy and the best performance you can buy.
Simple formula, I guess. Good products, good people, good materials, good people is going to make a good product, right?
Absolutely.
Alan, is there anything else you'd like to discuss today?
Yeah, I think there's one thing that I kind of like to bring up, just because it's kind of in our nature these days. Everybody, you have the internet. Everybody talks on forums, and everybody you talk to on a forum will tell you what their experience is. And I'll just say there, take everything with a grain of salt. You have people that maybe have used a certain brand for a lot of years because their father used it or whatever else, and you can only trust what people on the internet say so much. So do your own research. Go on those websites, and yeah, it might look like marketing fluff, but we put that on there for a reason. Everything has every feature and benefit has a reason, and that's why we put them on our websites. It sounds like a sales pitch, but really, just do your research, and look for the best battery you can buy. The other thing that I'll mention is there's only so many different battery manufacturers out there, so you see a lot of brand labels. Really, they're only made by so many different people. So that's the other question we get a lot is, who makes this, or is this any better than that? And the truth is, there's a lot of, I'll say, repetition. A lot of batteries
Okay.
that will be basically the same, and you can tell. I mean, if you look at two batteries, and even they have different brand labels, they got all the same capacities. They're probably built in the same place. They just have a different label. So it gets tough out there. Trying to find the truth. And hey, if you ever have questions about batteries, I know for one, I take customer calls all the time. We are more than happy to answer any specific calls you guys have, whether it be related to the application or the product itself and how it works. So don't be afraid to do that.
And we'll put your phone number, and which you can give me right now, and their website, folks, will be in the comment section in the video. So you can reach out to Alan and talk to him yourself.
There you go.
Alan, it's been very informative. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
No problem.
Alan Kohler, Marketing Manager for ODYSSEY Batteries. For Boating Roundtable, I'm Kevin Falvey, and we will see you next time. Thank you.